The best thing about this great looking project is that all you have to knit is a rectangle. Super easy. Hey, it's Denise from LoomaHat.com, and let's not waste any time. Let me give you your supply list. So you're going to need a knitting loom with at least 30 pegs, 140 yards of chunky yarn, hook, scissors, needle, optional 2 buttons. And without further ado, let's start with the U-wrap cast on of those 30 pegs. So I have my single strand of yarn. I'm going to use a simple knot to secure it to the anchor peg, and either direction that you go is going to be fine. You're going to take the working yarn from the back, bring it to the front, and completely wrap each peg. So from the back to the front, wrapping all of the pegs, 30 in total, and we're knitting flat. So once we get to that peg number 30, we're going to wrap that peg twice, and then we're going to take that bottom loop over the top and we're going to knit off that peg. That is the U-wrap version of the knit stitch. And again, the reason you can use any shape loom is because we're knitting flat. So I'm using a round loom. You can use square, rectangular, whatever you have, as long as it has 30 pegs. All right, and again, we're using the U-wrap here to cast on. So you half wrap your peg, take bottom loop over the top, and then you're going to knit off. This goes pretty quick. Just make sure that you did all of your 30 pegs and that you're using a large gauge loom. Once you knit off that last peg, you're done with the cast on and you're ready for row 1, where you're going to slip the first stitch, purl 28, and then end the row with 1 knit stitch. So I've marked my peg 1 so that you can always tell where I'm at, and I've turned around. Now I'm going to knit peg 2 first, so my yarn is under the existing loop. From the top with my hook, I'm going to scoop up that working yarn to create a new loop, and the loop that's on the peg, I'm going to take it off and put the new loop on and pull the yarn to tighten that stitch. So I slipped 1, I purled, and now I'm going to continue purling. So again, with the yarn under the existing loop, I scoop up, create a new one, take the old one off, put the new one on, and pull. And continue to do this. Remember that you need to do 28 purl stitches in total on this row. Once you've done those 28, that last peg that you have, you're going to do a U-wrap knit. And here I want you to tighten that loose stitch, and I'll show you. With your hook, just pull on that loop right there because it gets a little loose from doing the slip stitch. You pull on it a little, it'll tighten both of them, and then you can go ahead and continue. You're now ready for rows 2 and 3, where you're going to slip the first stitch and then knit the next 29. So we're knitting flat, so turn around, right, tighten that last stitch, and then half wrap your peg and knit off. Half wrap, knit off, because you're doing the U version of the knit stitch. Just continue. For those of you that feel more comfortable with the E-wrap, you can do that with this project using a chunky yarn, but I can't really tell you how many pegs you use. You just need to use less than the 30. I would say that probably 26 pegs will be enough to give you the 10 inches that you need in width. All right, so here I am again. We're turning for row 3, which is just like 2, and I did tighten that loose stitch. You don't have to do that, by the way. I just like the way that looks. Don't forget that you're slipping that first stitch before you start knitting your 29 pegs. All right, and another thing that I want you guys to keep in mind is that after you've done those 3 stitches, your yarn is pretty secure and you can take the knot off your anchor peg. You don't want to leave that there by mistake, so make sure you take it off before you start row 4. And so for rows 4 through 147, you're just going to repeat rows 1 through 3 48 more times. And for those that get confused, let me show you what that looks like. Right, so here you see rows 4 through 6, that's 1 repeat. 7 through 9 is another one. So you continue to do these repeats that you're seeing 48 times. And just in case I forgot to mention, we have really noisy puppies. All right, let's start measuring. So my trusty measuring tape says that it is 18 inches in length, or in other words, 546 centimeters. All of these have inches and on the other side centimeters, which is really cool to be able to convert. And you don't even need Alexa. All right, it's 9 inches in width, or in other words, 23 centimeters. Once you have approximately that length, you're ready for the basic cast off. And it's always worked over 2 pegs. So we start with the first 2 of them. And these first 2, you're going to knit them both. So you wrap knit pegs 1 and 2. Then you're going to take the stitch off peg 2. You're going to move that stitch over to peg 1. And you're going to knit off peg 1. And then you're going to take that stitch from peg 1 after you knit off, and you're going to place it on peg 2. Now from this point on, you're going to have a new peg 1 and 2, right? You're going to now have cast off that peg 1, and now again, like I said, you have a new peg 1 and 2 this time, and from now on you're only going to knit off that second peg. So I'm knitting off the second peg, bottom loop over the top. I take the loop off my new peg 2, I move it to my new peg 1, I tighten that stitch, and I knit off. Then I'm going to take that knit stitch off peg 1. That's a cast off now. Now I already took off 2 loops. I have 2 less loops, and I put it on the old peg 2, which is now my new peg 1. And now I'm going to knit off my new peg 2. Remember I said you're always working 2 pegs at a time. You're going to knit off 2, move it to 1, knit off 1, move it over to 2, and that's your cast off, and then you start all over again. As you guys continue working on that cast off and watching me do it, I'm going to take the time to say thank you to Carol Maple from Promise Learning ATL, Penny Pitchard, Barbara Ledger, Bob Urquhart, and Joan Claybor for covering the cost of closed captioning this video for us. Thank you guys, I so appreciate it. So here I am on my last peg, and as you can see, I can't pull on my loop as I would like to, because actually I did this backward. I should have knitted off the other one last, but I'm doing this one first, last, so I have to knit it twice in order to be able to pull on my loop, and that's going to leave me a little corner once I pulled that loop and I released my work. Now I have this long loop, which is okay because I'm just going to weave it in. So don't worry about that, okay? Your project now is off the loom, and you can leave a long tail if you're not going to tighten that cast on. You don't really have to because it looks fine, but if you don't want to tighten the cast on, then make sure to leave a really long tail, and you cut it. If you're not, then just leave enough so that you can weave in that edge. Then get a needle, and you can thread the needle, and you see that I put it through that little loop that I have, and I am weaving in that little corner and this leftover strand. Now again, you can leave it there and you can use that to sew, because we will need to sew. I'm going to tighten my cast on, so I go here to where my knot was. In your case, it might be a slip knot, and I pull it out, and I have a little knot here, So take off the knot first so that you can pull that knot that was on your anchor peg. You want to take that one apart and then pull that out of the loop that it's in. And what that's going to do is going to release it so that when you're done tightening all of your loops, you can pull that and everything will come through it. You'll see how much yarn you have left. So you see that I went to the other end to start pulling on those loose loops, and I just go to the next one, I pull it, I go to the next one, I pull it, and it's pretty easy. I suggest you do this with something small first before you try this with a full project, because it can get a little funky. But once you've mastered this technique, you can use it on all your projects, and it's awesome. It really cleans things up. So here's the other end, and like I said, you see that I can just pull it through, and look at all that leftover yarn. All of that was in that cast on. So now I'm going to bring the two corners together. You see that I bring one right corner, one left corner, and I bring them, and I brought them together, and we're going to knit about 4 inches or 23 centimeters, these two pieces together, these two corners. And so you take your needle, and you do, any of the stitches that you are comfortable with, a mattress stitch, an invisible seam, whatever's gonna work for you, whatever you're used to using to sew your two parts together, that's what you're gonna do. And you see that it's kind of like a staggered look. It's no longer a rectangle, right? Because you brought those two opposing corners together, and then you're seaming them up about 4 inches or 23 centimeters. And then that's it. You're just that's all the sewing you're gonna do, and it's not even gonna be noticeable. And then you take the two strands that are left over, go ahead and tie them to kind of secure things, and this is what it looks like. You see that? Then all you have to do is grab one of the peaks, one of the points, and pull it into the project. So you see how I'm pulling this in and then bending the top, and that creates the shape that gives you that neck warmer cowl, that pointy cowl look. That's how it's created. You're basically bringing one corner into the other so that both corners are now together in order to create that shape. See there? That's it. It's done. Now all you have to do is you're going to make it as comfortable as you can. You can pull it up higher, pull it down lower until it looks the way you want it to look. And don't forget to weave in your ends, because that's really important. And thank you so much for watching this video to the end, because it helps me a lot and it helps you a lot. I'm super grateful for that. So remember to share the video and comment. And if you haven't already done so, come back and loom with me when you get your announcement, because you've subscribed. All right, bye.